6 months. That is how long it took one networking certification to take someone like me or you from stuck at the help desk to holding a job offer with a salary jump most people wait years for. No fancy degree, no insider connections, just one exam that the entire IT industry keeps talking about. And today, I'm going to tell you exactly why the certification still matters in 2026 and 2027, of course, what it actually pays, and whether it's worth your time and your money. We are talking about the CCNA, the Cisco Certified Network Associate. If you have spent any time in IT forums, on LinkedIn, or talking to recruiters, you have already heard this name. But here's the question nobody answers honestly. Is it actually worth getting in 2026 or 2027, or is it just hype from people who get certified years ago and are riding the nostalgia? I'm going to give you the real answer, and stick with me until the end because I'm going to break down exactly what this certification pays in euros and dollars and how it compares to its biggest rival certification, and a personal story that shows you exactly what doors this thing can open if you play it right. Let's start what the CCNA actually is. Cisco is one of the biggest names in networking hardware and software in the world. For decades, when companies needed routers, switches, or network security solutions, Cisco was often the default choice. And because so much of the working world runs on Cisco infrastructure, Cisco built its own certification path to prove that an engineer actually knows how to operate that infrastructure. The CCNA sits at the associate level of that path. It is the entry point. Now here's the part that matters to you. The exam itself has changed a lot over the years. Cisco updates the syllabus every few years to keep up with how networking actually works today. And the current version puts much more weight on automation, cloud connectivity, AI, and security fundamentals than it used to. This is not the same CCNA your senior colleague took a decade ago. It has evolved to match what companies actually need right now. So, is it worth it? Here's my honest take: yes. And not because everyone says so, but because of what it actually does for you on a practical level. First, the CCNA gives you something most certifications don't: real hands-on credibility. Unlike some certifications that test purely on theory, the CCNA exam includes simulations where you are actually configuring devices on a command line. This means when you walk into your first networking role, you are not starting from zero. You have already typed the commands. You have already broken a configuration and fixed it. You have already felt what it is like to troubleshoot a connectivity issues under exam pressure. Second, it covers genuinely wide range of what you will deal with day to day: routing, switching, wireless networks, security basics, automation. That breadth means the CCNA doesn't just prepare you for one narrow job, it prepares you for the actual shape of the modern IT infrastructure work, whether you end up in a small business environment or supporting a much larger network. And here is where I want to open a loop for you, because the next part is something most people researching this certification never even think about. There is a reason recruiters specifically search for this certification by name. I will get to that in a moment, but first, let's talk about the comparison everyone in IT eventually asks about. What certifications do you hold, and how did it help you so far? Drop it in the comments, please, after liking this video. CCNA versus CompTIA Network Plus, or CompTIA N+. This is one of the most common questions I get from people trying to break into IT, especially people coming from a different country or different career entirely, trying to figure out where to even start. Network Plus is vendor neutral. It teaches you networking concepts without tying you to any one company's hardware. That makes it a genuinely solid starting point, and honestly a great choice if you are brand new to IT and want a gentle entry. But here's the trade-off: because it's vendor neutral, it doesn't give you the same depth of hands-on practice with real device configuration. The CCNA, on the other hand, comes with access to Cisco's own simulation software, which means you can build entire practice labs without buying a single piece of physical hardware. You can simulate routers, switches, entire network topologies, all from your laptop. That kind of practical repetition is hard to replace. If you compare that to trying to get hands-on practice with other networking vendors, the difference is night and day. Setting up practice environments for some competitor platforms can be genuinely frustrating. Hunting for software images, dealing with complicated virtual setups. With Cisco's ecosystem, that barrier is much lower. And that lower barrier means more people actually finish their practice labs instead of giving up halfway through. Now, let me bring this back to something personal, because I want you to see this isn't just theory. I think about the number of people I've spoken to here in Germany or across Europe, expats, internationals, people who came from a completely different country with an IT background that local employers weren't immediately recognized. And one pattern keeps showing up. The people who picked one respected, recognizable certification and actually finished it were the ones who started getting callbacks. Not because the certification alone got them the job, but because it gave the hiring manager something concrete to trust on paper. Especially when everything else about their background needed an extra layer of explanation. Like a foreign degree, like I have had from my country, a career gap, a visa situation. The certification became the one thing on the CV that needed zero translation, zero explanation. This part is important. The CCNA isn't just a networking certification anymore, it is increasingly becoming a foundation for people trying to move into cybersecurity, network security, or other things. Network security, for example, is not a separate universe from networking. You cannot properly secure a network you don't understand. Firewalls, segmentation, traffic, monitoring, none of that means much if you don't understand how the underlying network actually moves data in the first place. So if your end goal is a security role, and a lot of you watching this are eyeing exactly that way, the CCNA isn't a detour, it is a legitimate on-ramp. If you have made it this far, drop a comment after subscribing and tell me whether you are aiming for networking, network security, or you are still figuring it out. Let's talk numbers, because this is the part everyone actually wants to know. Entry-level networking roles that ask for a CCNA, things like junior network engineer, network administrator, or network support engineer, typically land somewhere in the range of 55,000 to 70,000 euros in much parts of Europe, with stronger markets and larger companies pushing toward the higher end or beyond. In the United States, similar roles often sit around 60,000 to 80,000 US dollars, depending on the city and, of course, the company. These aren't senior salaries, these are realistic entry points. And the moment you start stacking real experience on top of that certification, the ceiling moves up fast. Here's the open loop I promised to close. Recruiters research for the CCNA by name for a simple reason. It filters noise. When a junior role gets hundreds of applicants, a recognizable, verifiable certification becomes one of the fastest ways to separate someone who has demonstrable hands-on skills from someone who only has a CV claiming it. So the ATS, the software that the recruiters use, that filter with the CCNA, having it helps you a lot. That's not fair to everyone, of course, equally, but that is how hiring actually works right now. And understanding that gives you an edge. So should you get the CCNA in 2026, because we have still some months left, or starting in 2027, if your goal is networking, network security, or you are trying to use IT as your path into Europe's job market with a credential that travels well across borders, the answer to that question is yes. It remains one of the most respected entry points in the entire industry. And the newer vision is much more relevant to current infrastructure than ever. In 2027, there will be a newer vision as well. Before you go, here's that one thing I want you to remember. A certification doesn't change your career by itself. What changes your career is finishing when you start and using that piece of paper as proof of work you actually put in. The CCNA is hard, very hard. The labs take time, but that difficulty is exactly why it still means something to the people reading your CV. If this gave you clarity on your next move, subscribe, drop a comment with where you are starting from, and check out the next video where I break down the fastest realistic path from zero experience to your first IT role in Europe. I will see you in the next one. Bye.